Clockout with Talentless starts now.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to Clockout with Talentless. This is where the legends clock out but don't log off. We're here to talk to talent influencers, talent legends, the real people calling out the BS in the space that we're in. I'm excited today to have Erin Riska. For those of you that don't know her, but I don't know how you don't know her. But I am so excited to have her present on this show to tell us her journey and the stories that come to light out of this conversation. Erin, it is so great to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing, and it is so great to be here. This is the start of my Monday, the start of my week, because I love to do minimal Monday mornings. I tend to not do client calls and candidate calls on Monday mornings, so I take that time for admin and content work and that sort of thing. So this is my first official engagement of the day and the week, and boy, I've been looking forward to it.
Oh my God, I'm so excited because I don't do anything until like 2:00 on a Monday. It's super exciting. Erin, for those of the people out there that don't know you, can you give us a little bit of the byline, the bio, the history?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like a lot of folks that you have on your show, I am a longtime talent acquisition professional. Came up by way of people operations and human resources more generally, rather than via the agency track. I worked in-house with a variety of companies in people operations and talent acquisition for well over a decade of my career. Like many, I experienced a lot of upheaval as a result of the big old pando back in 2020. And it was just the kick in the butt that I needed to do something I'd been dreaming of for a long time, which was set out on my own. So I founded my company, Search and Rescue, sort of a boutique consultancy working with client companies to support their hiring needs on a fractional basis. I tend to engage with my clients for a long period of time. I have really enduring relationships with my clients. And I also do a little bit of work directly with job seekers to support their searches, particularly around job search strategy, resume review. I don't write resumes, though. And in addition to all of that, my choice to become a self-employed solo recruiter was a big part of what's enabled me to adopt the lifestyle that I live, which is that of a digital nomad. So my family and I, my husband and 2 kids, we've been traveling the world full time for the last 5 years, given all of the autonomy that I have as a solo practitioner.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that. I love
That
the
is the
digital
coolest thing.
nomad piece. I know. I love it, love it,
Yeah.
love it, love it. So let's just jump right in. And I think we'll get more into the digital nomad piece of this because that's super interesting to me. So I'm really curious, we ask people 3 questions on this show and then we delve in a little deeper, but what is the shit that brought you to this point in your career? How did it develop? How did you get here? And what were some like maybe defining moments along the way? That would be great for our audience to hear.
So, like I said, I took the people ops and human resources track toward talent acquisition, right? I didn't come up through the agency world the way many recruiters do. I certainly did not stumble into talent acquisition the way that many recruiters say that they did. I chose this work very, very deliberately after many, many years of being responsible for talent acquisition in addition to many other things under that very broad human resource. I always worked in small organizations. And so I was often an HR department of 1, HR department of 2. So really broad generalist and then HR management experience. And I had an opportunity to work in so many different capacities in a number of different industries with a lot of different kinds of leaders and business structures. And over time, as I just came to understand myself better, understand business better, understand work better, I found myself gravitating toward certain parts of people operations, right? So the things like performance management, talent acquisition, I've always loved onboarding, orientation, that sort of thing, the human elements of human resources. And over time, I just found myself sort of called to begin niching down and really focus very specifically on talent acquisition. And so that's what I did. And I practiced in-house for a number of years, and I loved that. I actually had a really hard time envisioning myself being able to effectively recruit for an organization that I didn't work for, by which I mean that I was not employed by. I really have always had this sense that I need to be able to really commit to the mission, the vision, the values of a company in order to effectively recruit for them. That's a limiting belief that I had to sort of abandon myself of in order to make my business succeed. And once I did, I had explosive success, right? So that's kind of the path that I took to this work. And as it turns out, I actually love being self-employed, being an external partner to my clients. But the fact that I have this real kind of baseline desire and kind of, I don't know, like basic qualification for my own clients that they have to be doing work that I care enough about, that I want to bring other people into it. That's a big part of why I tend to partner with my clients the way I do with these really long engagements, right? Like my longest running client right now, I've been recruiting for them for 3.5 years, right? And I've only been in business for 5, so sometimes I have clients who I work with for shorter periods of time, occasionally on a project basis. But really, this particular path has enabled me to carve out a career that lets me work for exactly who I want to work for in the way that I like to work for companies. And the most amazing thing is that because I'm really niched down in talent acquisition, both sort of strategy and execution, which I find to be some of the most human elements of human resources more generally, I never have to do something like a workers' comp audit ever again. And that was that was really the impetus for me saying, boy, it's time for me to niche down. I am not just a people ops professional. I'm not just an HR lady where, I can do just anything. I know that I can, but I don't want to anymore. I've worked my way to this point in my career where I really get to do what I like the best.
Oh my God, good for you.
Yeah, I feel like that's the best time in your career whenever you finally made it to a point to where people are not only seeking your insights and advisement, but now you can choose whose house you facilitate and whose strategy you give it to, specifically within talent and HR, because if you are very good at what you do, you don't just want to do it for anyone. Because you'll be giving people keys to the kingdom because you're excellent at what you do, and it will be a bad house that you're letting people hop into. So one question I had for you listening to your talk is like, because we can choose these projects and these clients and things, and we have that privilege at this point in our career, what has been your favorite or most funnest project that you've taken on since like having this opportunity? Like what's one where you were like, I definitely wouldn't have gotten this had I just stayed at the same old place? Because now you get to dabble in different industries, different products, different tools. Like what's the most unique thing where you're like, I never would have gotten this had I just stayed put?
Sure. So I'm going to punt just slightly because it's not actually a project. If anything, it's more of a pattern that I've noticed. And it's that, first and foremost, I will say I've been incredibly fortunate, incredibly privileged in the regard that I've never actually had to ask for business. And I don't say that to brag. In fact, it's something that I'm really super self-conscious about because I feel so incredibly uncomfortable asking for business that if I find myself in a position where I literally need to go out and do business development and ask for business, I'm going to have a really hard time. I don't even know how to do it, right?
You and Ashley, you should be a team.
I'm only referral based. The only reason I have business is because of Desiree. Like that's all I've had. I've never myself. So I get it.
Every single client that I have recruited for over the last 5 years has come to me, and they've come to me by way of a number of different things. I've had former employers ask me to come on and recruit as a partner as opposed to an internal. I've had former colleagues who've moved on to other companies engage my services that way. I've had certainly friends, no family, lots of LinkedIn connections who've come to me and said, hey, you know what? The company I work for is having a really hard time filling this role, and I love your content, and so I want to make an introduction and see if you might be able to work on this role for us. And then the most gratifying one, and where this pattern really begins to be sort of magical for me, is I have actually had a new client retain my services because someone who was a candidate that I previously tried to recruit proactively, right? A passive prospect that I tried to recruit for one of my clients. They went pretty far in the process. Ultimately, my client did not hire them. They hired someone else. And this person, this former candidate, they went on later in their career to work for another company. And when they needed to engage the services of a recruiter, they thought of me and they came to me and they said, "You were such a great recruiter to partner with that I know I can trust you to now recruit for me to build my team." So that was so enormously gratifying. So it's not a specific project, but it's this pattern of knowing that there are people who've worked with me, who've seen what I can do, who trust me, and they think of me when it's time to partner with somebody and they come to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I
that's
love that.
beautiful.
It's like the old recruiting model. I don't know. I'm really old, right? So like,
My goodness.
no, I'm
Not
just saying
even.
there used to be like note cards of like relationships and how
Yeah.
you got to the next step in recruiting, right? It was just
Yeah.
how you worked. And if we take that same philosophy, if you're really good at what you do, people come back to you time and time again. And if you're doing the work that you're doing, right, self-employed, having a business, that is so important. And that speaks testaments to you. I mean, it's just amazing that you've been able to build where you're not asking for business.
Yeah.
And that's exciting because right now I feel like everyone's asking for every moment of every time. And the fact that you've been so fortunate, and I mean that you deserve it. I don't mean it like in a weird way. I think you deserve that. But I think it's just really poignant about how you've built that through relationships. And that's super important for people to know as recruiters, as we talk about these things. Recruiting is a lot of relationship building.
Yeah.
And so we will see it time and time again. So I'm excited to hear that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
Yep.
amazing. All right. We're going to skip to the next one. Is there anything you would change or warn people about as they start their journey, maybe in talent and maybe not just in talent, maybe in just their
General.
careers? Yeah, just in general.
Anything I would change or warn people about? And do you mean people who are sort of setting out as a self-employed, like solo practitioner, or
Well,
just in talent more
Whomever.
generally?
Whomever. I do think that you could speak logically about how to take that journey and also probably a digital nomad journey. Like there's so many pieces I can talk to you about,
Yeah,
right? I mean, so
whomever.
whomever.
You say what you
Yeah.
want.
I think especially early in someone's career, as well as early in any role that they're in, whether they're internal or they're sort of like starting their own business, right? I think one of the most difficult challenges people face, but also one of the things that is so important to be able to thread the needle on, is being really, really good at knowing what you don't know and knowing how to figure it out, right? Where your resources are, who your resources are, and having sort of the moxie and the gumption to figure things out without needing to rely on those resources, especially if they're people, too much too early, right? So being able to do that, but then also knowing when is the right time to say, I need an assist. I need to turn to my team. I need those human resources to tap in, and because now I'm spinning my wheels, right? So and that balance of getting after it and trying to do it yourself and really kind of earning your stripes by demonstrating that you are resourceful, you're resilient, you know how to get things done, right? But you also know when you have maxed out your own capacity, and for the sake of experience and the sake of moving the needle, you need to tap in those other experts, right? I think one of the most damaging things that anybody can do in a role is waiting too long or not long enough before tapping into their team, right? Either one of those, tapping the team too soon, tapping the team too late, it reflects poorly. And over time, if you have a pattern of kind of miscalculating that, it's cumulative and it really begins to undermine your reputation, either in a company or with your clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was heavy.
That was, but it was really good. And
That
to
was
be
great.
honest, yeah, one of the things, what we call, it's an autonomous learner, and it's that proactive person who's going out there, figuring out things for themselves, and then having this sense of self-awareness of like, now's the appropriate time that I need to raise my flag and say, hey. And then I think there's also an even decent way to go about this, which is creating strategic scaffolding along the way. So sometimes without maybe tapping the team, maybe you could just like, like send a little whisper of like, hey, this is like a tiny light pink flag. No one needs to make any moves, but I'm just making you aware. So that way we have, history of knowledge of what's going on in this thing. And I think that type of thinking, that type of like macro prevention based like logic and strategy to put it in your practice is something that very senior and strategic talent leaders do, in my opinion. So in a weird way, it's also a good efficacy check of like, do I do this? Am I as strategic as I think? That's that self-awareness piece.
Yeah.
Of like whatever you would tap in and out as well. But I actually really like that because I think there's something to be said about that, because if you're heavy leaning on your team, then you're that person in the project work that is like, I did everything and they did nothing.
Yeah.
Or if you tap too late, it's like, no, you didn't verify if you did great, but you went in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely. And potentially have wasted a lot of time, and time is money, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I have to ask you, because this is before our third question, because I do want to delve into this a little bit, because I think digital nomad life is an interesting place for people. And I think it's also some of the people that follow you really in a real present way. And so talk to me about the decision to become this traveler of the world and how that fit into doing talent in HR, and what maybe obstacles you found in taking on this lifestyle.
Yeah. So, I mean, really, gosh, where to start? So I think an important thing to sort of frame this with is that this isn't my first rodeo, okay? So, and what I mean by this is I have always loved to travel, and I've always loved to travel long term in other parts of the world, right? So there was a time in my life 2 decades ago where I did something really similar. I'd already started my career. I was 2.5 years into my career. And I said, I really am, kind of feel like I missed the boat on doing like study abroad in college. I feel like I need to turn this ship around, go back to shore and board that one, right? So I literally left my job 2.5 years into my career, went overseas to Europe, and I spent a year traveling, teaching English, like living the life of, we didn't call it digital nomadism back then. I mean, it was backpacker.
Have you ever been to a webinar where the topic was great, but there wasn't enough time to ask questions or have a dialogue to learn more? Well, welcome to HR and Payroll 2.0, the podcast where those post-webinar questions become episodes. We feature HR practitioners, leaders, and founders of HR, payroll, and workplace innovation and transformation, sharing their insights and lessons learned from the trenches. We dig in to share the knowledge and tips that can help modern HR and payroll leaders navigate the challenges and opportunities ahead. So join us.
Right? I mean, like extremely low budget travel.
Yeah.
Hey, we're the payroll baddies, and our mission is to make payroll fun and relatable.
And call out industry when we hear it.
You got to call it out. You got to call it like you see it. But we also got to shine a light on all those unsung payroll heroes out there, making sure we get paid.
Yeah, those are the real payroll baddies out there, and we love sharing their stories and showing them love.
With gold chain and everything, baby.
By the way, SAP is the best payroll out there, and if you don't like it,
get out.
Traveling all over sort of Eastern Europe and the Balkans, some of the cheapest places that you could go in that part of the world at that time, like stretching a buck. And I did that for a year. So I'm well practiced at like taking these kinds of risks during like points in time or periods of life where it seems kind of like not very opportune or like counterintuitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that part of it. But also because I had that very formative experience in my like mid-20s, I have said forever that I wanted to give my kids an opportunity to do some growing up outside of the United States. And here I am, 5 years ago when my husband and I started doing this, our kids were 4 and 7, right? So it's not like we had old kids, but they were reaching school age. My older one was in school, right? And this thing that I'd said I always wanted to do, I wasn't doing it. I wasn't even doing anything that was going to like get us closer to that goal, right? I had a full-time job working inside of a company. So did my husband. Our older son was in school. We had a house that we had built and we had a mortgage. Like the idea of doing this prior to March of 2020 was like, oh, that's a cool dream that I have, letting my kids do some growing up outside the USA, but how are we going to do it? It was not a priority.
Yeah.
Then along came March of 2020. We all know what happened in March of 2020, right? And there was
Never heard of her.
that
That
public
weird
health
thing.
emergency. Yeah.
Never heard of her.
There was obviously an enormous amount of upheaval all over the place in many people's lives across business, right? And I was impacted, right? I was laid off. My husband also was laid off at the same time. And you guys, one of the first things anybody needs to know about me is like, I am hardcore Enneagram 7, ENTP on the Myers-Briggs. I am an eternal optimist. I will find the silver lining in the biggest pile of shit every time. Okay.
That's beautiful.
So,
we need a pull string Erin.
right?
Just a little pocket version. Just a little pocket rocket. We pull the string.
Yes.
And she just says,
I was laid off. My husband was laid off. And I remember thinking, wow, something really cool is going to happen because of this, right? And so there was that uncertainty. And really the conversation my husband and I started having right away is like, when will we ever find ourselves in this position again where we are both untethered from formal employment, where there's all this uncertainty with school, with our kids, and this whole digital nomadism thing started as a joke. Frankly, it was a coping mechanism, right? It was like, hey, you know what? Let's just go wait it out in Hawaii. I kept seeing all this stuff on NPR about how the like decrease in tourism was leading to like essentially Hawaii healing from over-tourism. And I was like, well, let's just wait it out in Hawaii. Then I started seeing things on NPR about how Croatia was going to be the only country in the EU that would welcome people with U.S. passports in the summer of 2020. And I was like, well, I've been to Croatia 20 years ago, and it was pretty amazing. Like, let's go there, right? And my husband is an incredibly cautious, risk-averse person. So he was not on board at first. It was, again,
it was going
this
great.
was a
like,
joke.
No.
Yeah. Yes, he had every reason in the world for me, like, no, we're not doing that. First and foremost, there's a pandemic. We're supposed to stay safe at home, you know, and you know, I was coping. I'm looking for those silver linings. And
the
one
flights
day,
are $20.
oh man, they were so stinking cheap, and there's 20
so
people.
cheap.
There's 20 people on the whole plane. Like, yeah,
Hello.
So one day, pretty much exactly 5 years ago, I'm not even kidding you guys, like 5 years ago this week, okay? You know, this is after several weeks of me kind of like, haha, wink, nudge, like, let's just sell our house. Let's sell everything and go to Hawaii. Let's sell everything and go to Havar, right? And my husband being like, no. One day he's like, okay, cool. Let's do it. You got all the answers. Let's do it. And I was like,
you were like blown.
Yeah, I was like, this man doesn't call my bluff. He knows better than to call my bluff because I'm never bluffing, right? So I was like, okay, like, I didn't wear him down. This is how I've always put it, though. I didn't wear him down. I worked him up. I got him excited. I sold him on this idea. And so we did it. By the 4th of July, our house was on the market. Wow. 2 weeks later, we were under contract. By September 4th, we had closed on the house. And right after that, we were wheels up. We went to Croatia. We thought we were taking a family gap year, right? Like, you may be familiar with the concept of a gap year, like over in the UK, right? You know? Totally. So we thought that's what we were doing. We thought we would do it for a year. We'd just go to Croatia for a year. Then we would just like leave when we could go somewhere else that would take our passport. And that when things went back to normal, so would we. Well, here we are 5 years later, still on our gap year. And it was really after the first 18 months that we were like, you know what? Let's just keep going. Like, why not? You know, part of it was, you know, the pandemic did kind of drag on, but things were going really well for my business. Traveling during the pandemic, I'll tell you what, guys, it was amazing. It was so affordable, so wide open. There was just none of the over tourism that you experience when you go to some parts of the world, because most people were not traveling. So it was a really incredibly magical time. And over time, we've sort of stopped using this terminology family gap year. And obviously we are digital nomads, but we're also world schoolers, right? This is the nomenclature that we use in the family nomad community, because we have essentially just made the choice to use the world as our classroom, to be homeschoolers who hit the road and, are teaching our children about life and teaching our children core academics and all the things they need to know, the same way that a conventional homeschooler might at their kitchen table. We're just, changing tables every few months.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Amazing. You're teaching them like so much cultural intelligence just in general, just by being places. So. One quick question I have for you. What would you say is the best place that you've traveled to so far, especially with kids, right?
Okay, so I have two answers. Okay, our forever favorite is Croatia. It's a place that we continue to go back to over and over. We've spent more time there cumulatively over the last 5 years than anywhere else. We have seriously considered moving there for a period of time, like literally just getting residency and staying put for a little while. We love it for a million reasons, but it is not the best place with and for kids. It has a lot to offer, and even has a lot to offer families for sort of a prolonged stay, but not a forever stay, if that makes sense. There's not enough to raise my kids there, if that makes sense. So that said, with kids, the single best place that we have been, by far, the most child-oriented place that we've ever been, and I wouldn't even say child-friendly. This is more than just being child-friendly. This is literally child-oriented, like built for families with kids in mind, is the Netherlands. My kids absolutely love it there. Yes, they love it so much. My kids feel very, very at home in the Netherlands as well. So yes, they are developing all of this sort of cultural competency by virtue of spending time in all these different parts of the world. But full stop, they're still kids, and they're at a phase of life where they experience self-consciousness, right? And so when we are in Portugal, they don't blend in. Nobody will ever mistake my children or me or my husband for Portuguese people. They will never mistake us for Mexican citizens. They will never mistake us for Croatian even. I can pass for Croatian in part because I speak the language somewhat and I look enough like some Croatians, but nobody is really going to mistake us for a Croatian family. But when we're in the Netherlands, people assume that we are Dutch. And my kids actually like that. It gives them a greater sense of belonging than they experience in some other parts of the world, makes them feel less self-conscious at this stage of life. And then just because there's so much child-oriented infrastructure and so many activities that are really aimed at their interests, it's their favorite.
Yeah. That totally makes sense about the Netherlands. I mean, if I could blend in, I'd probably move there, but I don't think that's happening. Just saying, let's put the truth out. Let's put the truth out there. But I don't think I'm blending into the Netherlands. But I do love that your kids feel a sense of belonging there. And that's a huge place. All right. Last question for you. Where do you think your journey will be in the next 5 years? It's the worst interview question, but we have to ask it.
Oh, yeah. Actually really like the way that you framed it, though, instead of just saying, where do you see yourself in 5 years, right? Because it acknowledges that there's really a journey here, right? So this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I love recruiting, but it's not lost on me that recruiting as a practice and as a discipline and as a business function is changing. Yeah. And it's going to continue changing. And this is true of many, many disciplines in the knowledge economy, right? And so I'm trying to be really cognizant of that. And, personally, I'm not worried about the way that the work I do is evolving the way that some people are, right? A lot of that just comes down to sort of like temperament and personality. I don't worry generally. I'm going to find the silver lining, right? But I also have at this point, 23 years of career experience to reflect upon and see how at every stage, my career journey has unfolded in a way that makes perfect sense in retrospect. It didn't necessarily always make sense in the moment, right? And especially when you look at things in like 08, 09 with the financial crisis and some of the things that happened then.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't necessarily make sense then, but in retrospect, it's like every single thing I've done was a natural extension of the thing I'd done before. And so I feel confident that that will continue to be the case. And so I'm at a stage right now where I'm really feeling inspired by opportunities that will exist to combine not just the work that I do as a recruiter with this lifestyle that I've been leading and this love of travel that I've always had. You know, one of the things I've been doing for the last year and a half at this point is I have a side hustle, right? Like in many ways, my actual business, search and rescue, is kind of like a side hustle. It's just my, it's my full-time thing because I don't actually have an internal job. My other side hustle is I organize gatherings of world schooling families like mine in interesting locations around the world. So last summer, we had a group of 15 families came to Gran Canaria. All of the kids went to a local Canarian surf camp every day and like learned to surf with all the Spanish kids.
That's so
Over the
cool.
winter, in January, we had 15 families who came together in the French Alps for 5 weeks of ski and snowboard and just, amazing fellowship together. And I'm working on my third one right now. I've got, at this point, 10 families, but more will be coming on board, coming for 11 weeks in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico this fall. So I think that my journey will continue to evolve such that I do more and more bringing people together. And I don't think that it will specifically be world schoolers. I think that what's happening and what I'm feeling inspired by are opportunities to bring other groups of people together. So one of the things I've talked about on LinkedIn just recently is, Desiree, you and I met at RecFest, right? And that was such a terrific event. I came from Denmark to be there, right? I came back to the US for like 4 days to go to that event because I knew so many people in the TA community were going to be there, people who I have relationships with and I wanted to spend time with in real life, right? And I gave you a big old hug and
I know.
So it was such a great experience. And I keep reflecting on how I want more of that. And so just, several weeks ago, I talked about the fact that I want more of that. And so while I am in San Miguel de Allende with my world schooling families, I am also organizing a retreat for women in recruiting to come down and just enjoy like an extra long weekend, like 4 days. Come to San Miguel. Let's hang out. I know the city really well. We are going to have the most amazing, bespoke, chilled out experience. This is not a yoga retreat. It's not a Pilates retreat. It's not even a recruiting retreat in the regard that we're going to be like, oh, this is a retreat, but we're really talking about work nonstop as well. Like this is truly about self-care, right? Because self-care is a discipline, not an indulgence. And so this is going to be my first foray into like, how does this feel to organize the bringing together of people with a shared interest in person for like a really kind of special event? So yeah, I think my journey is going to kind of continue to evolve and it's always going to touch talent because I love it so much. It's very, very difficult for me to envision a time where I don't recruit at least a little bit, but I'm increasingly leaning in the direction of, you know what? If the future of like really gratifying employment is going to be largely experiential, then why the heck not create great experiences for people who also do the work I love?
Yeah, love it. Love it so much.
So pretty much announcement here. We're all going to be
in Mexico.
Like in a
doing
year.
Doing it.
We'll be in
doing
Rome, Australia.
We'll be,
we have 5 years, 5 places to live.
That's right.
We'll be there.
Ashley and I want to tour the world, so we're excited.
Literally.
Anybody who wants to help us tour the world, please sign up.
I'll wear your shirts, your hats. You can
I
brand
don't
me
care.
to the moon. I don't care.
Please.
Just send us there.
Please send us there. Erin, this is I can't tell you. For me, meeting you at RecFest was part of what I said about RecFest that was so monumental for me. Like I had been online for many years and not as long as some people, but it was just like, so in real life means something. Right.
Yeah,
and so I think that the more experiences that we can have together and I saw you and I was like, oh my God, and like just gave you the big hug. So that was super exciting for me. And I hope we get to do that. We are actually hosting RecFest this year. So we are excited to be there and do all the things. But I want to leave this time for you to talk about you. Where can people find you, support you, all the things that Erin is doing right now? How can they find you?
Well, I mean, you can certainly always find me on LinkedIn. That is my platform, my channel of choice. You're not going to find me over on the TikTok. You can find me on the gram, though. But I don't talk about talent over there. I talk about my family's journey. So over on Instagram, you can search for me via Rome Base. That is the name of the little effort that I have for bringing together world schooling families. So I'm Rome.base on Instagram. Of course, on LinkedIn, you can just search for me by name, Erin Riska. There is no other Erin Riska in the world. I am the only one.
You and Joel. Like, everybody's the only.
Yeah, you can.
I don't think I'm
find
the
me.
only Desiree Goldie.
Very easy to find that way. Technically, I suppose you could find me if you went to searchandrescue.work, but I'd advise you not to because websites are not my strong suit. So it's not that special over there. Yeah.
You never needed it to be. You were too famous. You were referral based, girl. The skills spoke for themselves.
Yeah. Do you
so,
know,
hey.
I actually did not have a website until last summer. I finally sat down and did it because I didn't need it for the first 4 years. I finally did it, but I'm not proud of it. And, of all the things... Of all the things that AI keeps promising to do for me, this is one it just doesn't seem to do very well. Like, where is the AI that's going to just
fix all the things. Yeah. Do it right now.
So, yeah.
Erin, thanks again so much. This has been a pleasure, a joy. We have to have you back as we go forward
anytime
next season. And just thank you so much. And everyone, this is Clockout with Talentless. Don't forget to hit subscribe on talentlesspodcast.com, wherever you find your podcasts. Also follow us on Instagram at talentless_podcast. And we are so excited. Wrap it up.
Erin, will you show your cup?
Oh, show the cup. Yeah, let's see. Was it okay?
Look at that cup.
So
Look
cute.
At it go. It's so precious. Okay.
It's nice that you have one. All right. Erin and everybody.